Hey, g'day guys, it's Adam from VideoShowMeHow, and in today's video we are continuing the build on the D-MAX, but with a bit of a difference. We're not doing any forward driving mods or anything like that today. We are replacing the factory head unit and we're going to the ALPINE HALO series. This is their new iLX-F511. Now this particular video is going to be just the full install and the how to get one of these guys installed. As far as how to do that, it is going to be very similar in process to any other sort of modern vehicle. So if you're after an install, this is the one for you. Now I've been working with George from Race Automotive Sound and Vision. If you're after a similar kit to this and you are based in Australia, I'll put all of his details in the video description down below. Tell him I sent you. I'm sure he'll look after you if you're looking for something similar. But I've been working with him to put together an install here that is as plug and play as possible without having to cut wires or any of that stuff. So we've got the full Alpine unit here, which has all of the standard wiring there, but then we also have some separate wiring harnesses and looms here so that it's going to be as factory as possible installed with everything working, cameras, the steering wheel controls, all of that stuff. So it'll be a nice factory install. So without further ado, let's unbox all of this sort of stuff and see what we get. And here we go, here is everything you get in the box, including the stinger kit as well. So with the Alpine unit, you're getting everything that you're gonna need from a antenna base, the actual faceplate and the double DIN scenario with all of your connectors, all of your wiring loom and everything that goes along with, as you can see. Then we have sort of the main event here, which is our single DIN for our head unit. This is the amp and the brains of the operation. And then at the front, we have our glorious screen. There's the big 11-inch screen. As you can see, this is the new Halo, so it has much thinner bezels on it compared to the old unit. Now with the stinger kit, we have one of the Alpine harness units here as well, designed to be as factory as possible there. This lot here is part of the stinger kit, so this is going to be the replacement for where our factory screen is, so that everything sits in there nice and neatly. From here, it's a matter of getting all of this stuff lined up, ready to go. We're then going to jump into the cab of the D-MAX so we can pull out the factory unit. Now you would have seen in the install of our track electronic secondary camera here, the full install of how to get this screen out in the D-MAX. That is our first step, and it is a bit of a hairy one. Pulling our factory screen out is not for the faint-hearted, but if you've got some decent trim removal tools, don't use the cheapo ones, get some that actually have a bit of girth about them. It is relatively straightforward if you do it the right way. For the full detail, you can check out that track electronic install video. Right, so we're back over on the bench. The next step is to start installing our replacement head unit and fascias. So we can come over here and we can grab our replacement double DIN unit here, and then it's a matter of removing our factory surround from the screen itself. So there will be 4 bolts. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's just a matter of removing each of those. Once you've got the 4 corners out to release the surround, we want to then get this out. So there's another couple of screws there on the side, those 4 there. We just need to undo those as well. Then once you've got all of the 4 and the 4, then it's just a matter of removing our actual surround. We can put that to the side. And here's our screen. This is, if you've ever wanted to know what the factory Isuzu screen looks like, there's our specs and there's our screen. That's all it is. From here then, it's a matter of screwing this guy back into place. That's going to sit in at the front, and where we can see 1, 2 over there, 3 and 4, that will sit in underneath. That then gives us those same screw locations for it to sit a little bit in, just like that. And as you can see, beautiful. Makes it look all nice and factory. So that's our next step. So from here, it's just a matter of joining our 2 together. So we have our face plate or our amp unit here. That is then going to be connected via our pin unit here to the back of our display. So it's just a matter of marrying these 2 together. You can see we have 1, 2 and 1, 2. Those slots, those holes need to line up to those 2 there and those 2 there. So just take your time here. Our little pins in the middle there need to be aligned perfectly to the ones there. So take your time and join these 2 together. And you can see once they slot in, we've got our little notches here on the top. So there's those ones there and those ones there. From here then, we need to get our screws that are included in our pack here, and we need to bolt down each of those 2 little bolt holes that we saw there before. So there we go. We have all four, so our two over here and then our other two down in there. You want to just do those regular tight, not maniac tight on these. Now our next step is to install our brackets. So we have our left, we have our right. They need to go on the left and right as you're looking at it. So as the unit looks like this, so left and right, of course. If you are putting it down, make sure you've got that on a nice soft cloth. We don't want to go scratching our screen. Now before we do that though, to put those brackets on, we want to get our little Alpine blanking bracket. That's going to sit directly underneath, just like that. There's the little cutouts, so we just need to undo our little corner screws there and there. Then once those screws are undone, just slide up your blanking little plate there and screw that back into position. Once that's in place, it's a matter of grabbing your left and right brackets. So they then sit just in here. We've got 1, 2, and 3 holes there. So that fits perfect in there. We can screw those into position. Right, so we've got all our brackets all plugged in here, which is great. Now from here, we need to do a test fit. And the reason we need to do that is because we've got adjustability of how high the unit sits on our actual dash here. So if we take that over to the D-MAX, we can then slot that into place on where it's going to go. We can just tuck everything in, just a temporary install, line it up, going to sit in there a little bit like that. But in our case, we're way too high. So for the D-MAX, you're going to want to shunt this down a little bit. Now the good news is, if we have a look here, we probably need to come down about that much to then have our screen sitting nice and plumb in pretty well where the factory location is. So for me, I need to come down a good amount there. The good news with the Alpine units and these floating displays is, if you have a look around here on the back, we've got adjustability. So for us, we're going to then move this down a fair way. To do that, we just need to take our little power strip off here. We need to just disconnect simply as we installed it there before. Move this up in our case so that it's further down when we install it. And then we'll give it another test fit. And here we go. So I've temporarily just adjusted it. Now, if you have a D-MAX, the sweet spot is going to be right at the very top. So take that all the way up. Just be really careful with those screws so you don't cross thread anything. I'll just show you what that looks like. So if we slot that in, we can see that that's going to be pretty well perfect. By the time we put our surround on and what have you down around here, that's going to be spot on. We can still access everything at the top, our bins and that sort of stuff. From here, it's a matter of then just buttoning in the last couple of screws here. So that part's in place. We want to then take the screen part off so we can slot it into our new fascia and final bolt everything together. And then our next step is getting ready to install this into the car itself. So we want to install this guy first. The faceplate is going to sit directly over the front here, a little bit like that. I think you kind of get the idea. It will sit and form a nice seal around the outside of our plate of our double DIN unit and the bottom plate here as well. So that's going to look perfect. Once we've got all of this in and the wiring all connected up, we can then come along, install this, slot it into position, and then come in from the top and screw down each of our screws there and our little power ribbon bracket over the top there as well. It's really important. This one's installed, it won't power up without it. So we can come in from the top and then adjust the unit from there. So our next step is to work out our wiring side of things, get our full kit ready to go here as well, so that everything from factory still works with our new unit. So here we go, here's our wiring all done. So let me step you through it. It does look like there's a lot going on here, but I recommend just taking your time and methodically just adding each loom in. When you do it that way, it's all okay, and it's actually pretty straightforward. So the first thing you want to do is add in all the Alpine stuff to start with. They can only go in one place, so just like we were looking at there before, just connect up all of the factory Alpine gear. The only thing that you're not going to need to use if you are connecting up to the D-MAX or your specific kit is the main power loom here. So you can leave that guy out. If you're in a bit more of an old school car, then this will take you all the way through to the battery, for example, run your power, all of that sort of thing. So for us, we're going to use our factory loom, so we don't need that guy, but everything else can connect in. Once you've got that done, then it's a matter of connecting in the ISO unit here. That is then this part of the loom here. And the upside of that is it pulls all of the factory power, the factory earth, all of that sort of stuff that is already there from factory and allows us to use all of that. The rest of this then is the stinger kit, and that's the part that enables us to use all of the factory bits and pieces. I'd recommend just doing these one by one. So if we work our way through those, and if we start with this guy, this one is the aux in and the USB plug replacement. That connects into our Alpine unit here at the top, and it is pretty straightforward, that one. We literally just plug it into our switch. This is going to replace our factory one. It sits in there like that, our USB, and then also a 3.5 jack. So that's going to slot into the factory component. We just clip in our little white connector there, and then into the black connector there on the Alpine. So that's that one. We have our factory camera. So this will retain our factory DMAX camera and an auxiliary front if we need to. For us, we'll just focus on the rear for the minute, and that is this box right here with just our couple of plugs out the back. The only really one we want to focus on is our reverse signal, and we have our reverse loom coming out of our main connector. So we just connect those two up, through down into here, and then here's our green plug that will connect into the car. These guys here are all the car connectors. If you kind of bundle them together as you're going, you know, right, this is the stuff I need to plug into the factory loom that's connected to the car, then everything else connects in some way into the head unit. So if you sort of just think about it in that way, we've got car stuff, we've got head unit stuff, and it's a matter of finding homes for it. So that's all there is to it for our reverse camera. That'll enable that to connect in hunky-dory, no problem at all. Then the next part is the main two parts, and these connect into each other. This is our main wiring radio adapter, and that's all of this stuff. These two connectors, there's literally, they plug straight into each other. So we've got the black ones, and we've got our ready brownie colored ones here. That's going to run our power and then all of our speakers. So they're ready to go. They literally just plug in. You can't go wrong. We then have our main adapter. This is the main adapter on the car side that plugs in, and then this grey one also plugs directly on the car side, but has our two radio options. Now for us in the D-MAX, the old school antennas are no deal. We have the DAB version. Now the Alpine unit does come with its own DAB radio, but we can use our factory one. That's our connector just in here, so we can connect that into place. We just need to push that down, and then over the top here we have our little factory antenna. So that is that guy, that just connects straight in, just like that. So there's our old school radio, there's our new school radio. That's that part done. The other parts to this are then our reverse sensor. That'll turn on our camera and what have you, that plugs in the car side. Then we have our extra little loom, which is our steering wheel control patch lead. They go together here. That's effectively this part here. So that connects in here like this. So this is a universal adapter. So that's this component here. You can see that we have a bunch of different colors. Now for an Alpine unit, we only want to keep the orange, if I can flip that over, we only want to keep the orange one connected. So leave that alone. The rest though, snip in half, and then you can just make sure you isolate those. So just use a bit of heat shrink, that kind of thing. And then once they're all heat shrunk, you can just sort of tape those together so it's all nice and neat. Then that connects straight in there like that. Red to red, black to black, and white to white. That's our power. And then this guy is the plug that connects into our steering remote. And on the back of the head unit, if we go digging in the Alpine loom, what we need here though is this particular loom. So this is what's going to control our steering remote. Now there, you just got to be careful here because we do have our mic in. We don't want to use our factory mic. Alpine do give you a premium mic here for your hands-free calls and what have you. So we're going to plug that in and use that. That's pretty straightforward because it's just a normal 3.5 jack. That connects into our mic in, so you can run that wherever you want. The one we want though is our steering remote, which is our orange connector here. Really important that you plug the output from this into that steering remote before you go plugging it into the car. So the other part, of course, is make sure you plug it into the steering remote and not the mic in. It's not going to be any good if you do that. And then that's pretty much it. That's our last little universal connectors. So from here, we want to grab everything we have here. We're all connected. We want to head on over to the inside of the D-MAX, and we want to plug it all in and give everything a bit of a test. And here we go. This is it all in and all wired up. I've just given it a cheeky test, just sort of sitting in a position and doing the earth little screws in there, and it all works. So happy days, we have done it correctly. So you can have a good look at what's connected here when you are wiring up for yourself. We basically are currently not using that part of the loom. That's for our RCA outs, pre-outs, and our sub out, that kind of stuff. From the top here, we have our camera inputs here, and the 3.5 jack there, and our GPS. Now the GPS I've routed, and I've actually just hidden it up under here. The plastic is plastic all the way through here, so it should have no problem picking up signal. We also have our aftermarket upgraded little jack down the bottom here. This is our new USB and 3.5 jack plug just down in here. That replaces the factory Isuzu unit. That's what this is. I actually think this is what I was having dramas with the the wired Android Auto, but there you go. That's what that looks like behind the scenes there. So that's now redundant there as well. From a plugging into the actual car itself, it's this cluster of wires here. With the Isuzu, you're only going to have one little spare. Those ones all plug in. There's only one that they can plug into, so you can't mess that up. That's nice and easy. Over here, this box is our reverse signal, so it's just a matter of plugging in our male to female reverse signal wire there. And then the only one you got to remember is it does have an earth for itself, so when you are connecting it back up, that just needs to live up there nice and simply as part of one of the earths. This was our orange 3.5 jack. That's for our steering wheel control, so that all of our factory steering settings and what have you all still work completely fine. So that's all nice and easy. The rest we sort of had connected before we came in here, and yeah, pretty well straightforward. There are some extras up here, so if you do want to run some additional cameras in the front and rear to have that plugged in, we are going to do that ourselves. We're just waiting on this connector, some different cameras to arrive, so we'll be installing that in the future. That's going to be pretty cool. So the next step from here, now that I've given that a quick test, I'd recommend doing that before you go putting everything all back together, just to make sure that it all works. For me now, it's a matter of just doing a final tidy here so we can get that in our void behind the dash. And then from there, it's a matter of separating these two for the last time. We're going to take off this front top plate here, take out our power strip. That's a critical thing to make sure it powers up fine. And then remove the screen itself. We can then slot our actual amp section here into place. We get our little screws, we screw it into position. Then we get our front facer unit that we prepared earlier, and we can then mount that into position and final mount that where we want it. From there, it's then a matter of reattaching the screen for the final time, slotting in our couple of little connector pieces there, screwing them down from the top, and then we can give all of this a good test. And here we go. We are in, all installed. It works really well, and I love the fact that the trim kind of matches the D-MAX, which is just excellent, and I love that. It's got that same sort of brushed aluminium kind of feel to it, which makes it look excellent. And from a side point of view, you do still have plenty of space for the vents, as you can see there. And at the top was nice and sort of neat, really, with this Stinger kit that goes over the round. A quick little demo. Let's fire this guy up, and this is kind of my theory with it, right? So here we go. We're turning on. Yeah, awesome. This is your sort of standard startup from cold. And what will happen is it takes us to the home screen. As you can see there, lots of different options. And then the cool thing from there, we can turn our knob on. I really wanted to get an actual knob. This is a separate piece. It does have little brackets. You can sit it on the sides here or on the side over here. But I just used some of the old double toe. I wanted it in the middle so that both people could use that nice and easily. But that's pretty much it. That's the full Android Auto and full wireless, like you can see. So I just had my phone sitting on here on the side, and that's kind of what I was shooting for. So we've got our standard little phone mount here. If you haven't seen those videos, head on over to the channel. We've got the full wireless version of this now. And this is basically what I do. I'll get in the car, I'll attach that guy. It will start charging away, and then it automatically goes into Android Auto on the car. So now I don't have to plug in wires. I don't have to sort of carry on with any of that stuff. I just attach this guy onto the mount. It will start charging there. Within, I don't know what that was, maybe 15 seconds or so, the head unit's turned on. You know, the tunes are set up, ready to go if need be. Mapping Android Auto, or I guess it would work exactly the same if you were rocking one of the dastardly apples. It would work exactly the same, but that's the cool thing. I don't have to muck around with anything. It just auto connects and it's ready to go, totally hands-free. Awesome screen, as you can see there. It is a HD screen. We've got all the bits and pieces that you would expect from a high-end Alpine unit, including all of our sound setting stuff here, which is kind of the reason, if you're a bit of an audiophile, why you'd go for something like this, because of all the time correction and all the other settings that you can set up. The other big one is Tidal. If you haven't heard of Tidal, Tidal basically gives you full high definition audio, and it's kind of like a streaming service like your Spotify's of the world, that kind of jazz. But the other thing to note is just how snappy all of this stuff is. There is really no delay on this. I know some head units you may have used in the past and they're kind of a little bit slower around the place, but you can see with this, It's a full capacitive screen and it is super snappy. There's no mucking around. Wireless Android Auto is very snappy as well. We can get into Spotify, we can sort of muck around. I won't play any audio and get snapped by YouTube, but you can see like there's no lag, which is absolutely awesome because it's one of my big bugbears when it goes nice and slow. So that part is excellent as well. There's no lag whatsoever. The big takeaway is the fact that everything works. When we chuck it in reverse, you get a full screen reverse camera and you'll really realize how bad quality, or not bad, but just average quality the standard cameras are when you see that on a nice big screen. All of your steering wheel controls, all of that sort of stuff, all works completely factory as well. So overall, very, very happy with the unit, and the fact that you get this big glorious screen. It is that floating screen design that you can sort of pivot, but that's where I like it. And the fact that I reckon in the D-MAX in particular, it just works really, really well and looks right at home. But there you go, guys. That is the install vid of the Alpine, their new Halo 11 head unit. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. I know this is a bit more of a primo. It's a bit expensive. It hurts the wallet a little bit, but you know, certainly if you're a bit of an audiophile and you're looking to do other upgrades to the system, like this guy, keep an eye out on some videos. We're not done yet. If you're looking for that sort of stuff, then certainly something like this, particularly when you have access to full HD, proper HD audio and that sort of stuff. Something like this, I reckon, is the way to go. I don't know about the HD screen and the full-size screen. I know that's not everyone's jam, but anyway, let me know what you reckon in the comments down below. I will make sure to put all the bits and pieces that I used in the video description below. George over at Race Automotive was really, really helpful in helping me sort of piece all that together. So if you're sort of in the area or after any of that expertise, make sure you give him a shout. Not sponsored or anything like that, but the bloke was super helpful. I'll put all the details down below. Of course, a massive, massive thank you and big thumbs up to the patrons of Video Show Me How. Guys, your extra support, as always, very much appreciated. More videos to do with this guy. We'll do the cameras, the HDR cameras, but then also speaker upgrades. We may or may not have some subs coming, some other speakers around the place needing some love. So they're all coming up on the channel as well. But other than that, guys, as always, I hope that you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.